Most people think going silent is power. They believe if they stop calling, stop texting, disappear for a few days, everything will magically change. But here's the truth no one wants to hear. Silence without purpose is weakness, not power. You don't gain respect by hiding, you gain it by becoming someone worth missing. If your life still revolves around them, if your focus is still on what they are doing, your no contact is just emotional waiting, not growth. And waiting doesn't build value, it drains it. The world rewards people who upgrade themselves, not people who sit around hoping someone feels their absence. If you really want someone to feel it, you don't just disappear, you elevate. You fix your habits, your money, your discipline, your mindset, because when your life starts moving forward, that's when your absence hits different. That's when they realize they lost access to something real. And that's the shift you need to understand right now. You stop chasing attention and start building value. You become harder to reach because you're busy becoming better, not because you're playing games. That difference is everything. Remember this, real power isn't silence, it's transformation that speaks louder. Let me hit you with something most people avoid because it's uncomfortable. Just disappearing doesn't make you valuable. You can ignore someone for days, weeks, even months. But if you come back as the same person with the same habits, the same mindset, the same empty routine, nothing has changed. And deep down they know it. Silence without growth isn't power. It's just avoidance dressed up as strategy. Look at it like this. Imagine someone quits their job because they feel disrespected. They walk away, stop answering calls, cut all contact. Sounds bold, right? But 6 months later, they're still broke, still stuck, still blaming others. That exit didn't elevate them, expose them. Now compare that to someone who leaves quietly but uses that time to learn new skills, build income, improve discipline. When they reappear, they're not asking for respect. Command it. That's the difference. It's not the silence. It's what you do inside that silence. The same rule applies in relationships. If you go no contact, but spend your time checking their social media, overthinking every move, waiting for a message, you're not in control. You're emotionally vis-a-vis, just in a quieter way. You didn't grow, you just paused. And life doesn't reward pauses. Life rewards progress. Real power is when your focus shifts completely. You stop asking, do they miss me? And start asking, am I improving daily? Because let's be honest, people don't miss average. They don't feel the loss of someone who isn't evolving. But when you start upgrading yourself mentally, physically, financially, that's when your absence starts to carry weight. I've seen this play out in real life over and over again. There was a guy who got out of a relationship and decided to go silent. At first, it was all ego. He wanted her to chase him. But nothing happened. Weeks passed, and reality hit him hard. That's when he made a decision. Instead of focusing on her, he focused on himself. He started waking up early, hitting the gym, cutting distractions, learning online skills, building income streams. Months later, not only had his life changed, but so had how people saw him. When his name came up again, it wasn't about what he lost. It was about what he became. That's when she noticed. But by then, he wasn't interested anymore. That's real transformation. Here's the practical truth you need to apply. First, control's still random, emotional, and reactive. You're not growing. Set a schedule. Wake up at the same time. Move your body, train your mind, work on something that increases your value, skills, business, career, anything that compounds over time. Structure builds discipline, and discipline builds identity. Second, cut the emotional habits that keep you stuck. Stop checking their status. Stop replaying conversations. Stop imagining scenarios. That mental energy is your most valuable asset, and you're wasting it on something that doesn't pay you back. Redirect that focus into learning, creating, improving, because every hour you invest in yourself is an hour that builds your future leverage. Third, build something tangible. Don't just feel be better in measurable ways. Increase your income, improve your physique, upgrade your communication. When your results are visible, your absence becomes undeniable. People don't respond to intentions, they respond to outcomes. And here's something you need to understand clearly. Growth isn't comfortable. There will be days you feel lonely, days you question if it's worth it, days you're tempted to go back to old habits. That's normal. But those moments are the test. Most people fail right there. They run back to comfort. But the ones who succeed lean into that discomfort and use it as fuel. Because at the end of the day, this isn't about making someone miss you. That's a small goal. This is about becoming someone who doesn't need to be noticed to feel valuable. Someone who walks in a room and commands respect without saying a word. Not because they disappeared, but because they evolved. So if you're thinking about going silent, upgrade, build, transform. Make your absence mean something by making your presence rare and valuable. Because when you come back different, not just in words, but in results, that's when people feel it. Not because you left, but because you didn't come back the same. Let's get one thing straight right now. Chasing attention is the fastest way to lose value. The more you try to be seen, the less people actually respect you. That's not opinion, that's how human behavior works. When you're constantly trying to prove your worth, you're quietly telling the world you don't believe you have any. And people can feel that even if you never say it out loud. You see it every day. Someone posts just to get a reaction. Someone texts first, double text, tries to keep the conversation alive, even when the energy isn't being returned. Someone stays available 24/7, hoping that effort will be appreciated. But here's the harsh truth. Attention given too easily is rarely valued. Not because people are evil, but because humans naturally respect what feels earned, not what feels handed over without standards. Now flip the perspective. Think about someone you genuinely respect. It's not the loudest person in the room. It's not the one constantly asking for validation. It's usually the one who is focused, grounded, and moving with purpose. They're not ignoring people. They're just not chasing them. Their energy is invested in building something real, and that naturally makes others pay attention. That's the shift you need to make. Stop asking, how do I get their attention? And start asking, what am I building that makes my attention valuable? Because attention is a currency. And right now, you're either spending it wisely or wasting it trying to impress someone who hasn't earned it. Let me give you a real world example. There was a woman who constantly felt overlooked in her relationship. She tried everything, being more available, more understanding, more accommodating. She thought giving more would fix the problem, but all it did was lower her value in his eyes. Not because she wasn't good enough, but because she stopped setting boundaries. She made access to her too easy. Eventually, she hit a point where she changed her approach. She didn't just go silent, she got focused. She started investing in her career, improving her health, expanding her social circle, and most importantly, respecting her own time. She stopped overgiving. And something interesting happened. The same person who barely paid attention before started noticing the shift. Why? Because her value increased. Her time became limited, her attention became selective. And that changes everything. This isn't about playing games. It's about understanding value dynamics. People are drawn to those who have direction, discipline, and self-respect. Not perfection, but progress. Not noise, but substance. So here's the practical side of this, because motivation without action is useless. First, audit your behavior. Where are you overgiving? Where are you trying too hard? Look at your messages, your time, your energy. If you're always the one initiating, always the one adjusting, always the one chasing, you're not building value, you're draining it. Second, redirect your focus into things that grow you. That could be your career, your business, your fitness, your skills. Something that improves your position in life. Because when you're busy building, you naturally stop chasing. Not because you're forcing yourself, but because your priorities change. Third, set standards for your time and energy. Not everyone deserves access to you at the same level. And that's not arrogance, it's self-respect. When you treat your time like it matters, others start to see it that way too. Fourth, learn to be okay with less attention in the short term. This is where most people fail. They start pulling back. They start focusing on themselves, but the moment they don't get immediate validation, they panic and go back to old habits. You need to understand, value takes time to build. Respect takes consistency. You're not planting seeds today to see results tomorrow. You're building something long-term. And here's the deeper truth most people ignore. When you stop seeking attention, you actually gain control. You're no longer reacting. You're deciding. You're no longer waiting, you're moving. That shift in mindset is what separates people who stay stuck from people who level up. At the end of the day, attention is temporary, value is lasting. Anyone can get attention for a moment, but not everyone can build a life a mindset, and a presence that holds attention without chasing it. So stop trying to be seen. Start becoming someone worth noticing. Build your value so strong that your presence speaks before you even say a word. Because when your life is moving forward, when your standards are clear, when your energy is focused, you don't have to ask for attention. It comes to you. Let me challenge something you might not want to hear. Distance doesn't create attraction, discipline does. You can disappear, block, ignore, and create all the space in the world, but if your life is still inconsistent, unfocused, and reactive, that distance means nothing. People aren't drawn to absence alone. They're drawn to strength, stability, and direction. And those things come from discipline, not distance. A lot of people confuse being unavailable with being valuable. They think if they just pull back, act cold, or limit communication, they'll suddenly become more attractive. But if there's no substance behind that behavior, it eventually gets exposed. Because attraction isn't built on mystery alone, it's built on consistency. The way you live your life daily matters far more than how long you stay silent. Think about someone who says they're working on themselves, but their actions don't match. They disappear for a while, but their habits are still the same. Late nights, no structure, no goals, no progress. When they come back, nothing about them has changed. That's not discipline, that's avoidance. And people can feel that lack of direction immediately. Now compare that to someone who becomes disciplined. They wake up early, even when they don't feel like it. They train their body, sharpen their mind, and build something meaningful every single day. They don't rely on motivation, rely on routine. Their life has structure. Their energy is controlled. Their focus is clear. That kind of person doesn't need to create distance to be respected. Their lifestyle already demands it. Here's a real-life scenario. There was a man who used to be emotionally reactive in his relationship. Every small issue would throw him off. He'd overthink, argue, seek reassurance. When things didn't go his way, he'd try to fix it immediately, often making things worse. Eventually, he decided to step back. But instead of just creating distance, he committed to discipline. He started managing his emotions, controlling his reactions, and building daily habits that made him stronger mentally and physically. Over time, something shifted. He stopped reacting impulsively. He became calm under pressure. He didn't chase conversations. He engaged with intention. And that change didn't just affect his relationship. It changed how everyone saw him. He became someone people respected, not because he was distant, but because he was consistent. That's what discipline does. It transforms your identity. It turns you from someone who reacts into someone who leads. And leadership, whether in life, work, or relationships, is what naturally attracts people. Now let's get practical, because this only matters if you apply it. First, build a non-negotiable routine. Discipline starts with structure. Set a fixed time to wake up. Move your body daily. Allocate time to work on your goals. When your life has order, your mind becomes sharper and your decisions become stronger. You stop drifting and start directing. Second, control your emotions. This is where most people fail. They let feelings dictate their actions. One bad day and everything falls apart. Discipline means you act based on principles, not moods. You don't text just because you feel lonely. You don't react just because you feel triggered. You pause, think, and respond with control. Third, focus on long-term growth over short-term comfort. Discipline is uncomfortable in the beginning. It requires sacrifice. It means saying no to distractions, to laziness, to instant gratification. But that discomfort builds strength, and that strength creates presence. When people see that you're committed to growth, they naturally take you more seriously. Fourth, stay consistent, even when no one is watching. This is the real test. It's easy to act disciplined when you're motivated or when you expect recognition, but real discipline shows up on the days you feel nothing. No excitement, no validation, just commitment. That's where your character is built. And here's something important to understand. Discipline doesn't just improve your life. It changes how others experience you. You become more reliable, more grounded, more focused. Your words carry weight because your actions back them up. That's attractive on a deep level, not just in relationships, but in every area of life. At the end of the day, distance might get someone's attention for a moment, but discipline earns their respect over time. And respect is what keeps attraction alive. It's what makes people value your presence instead of taking it for granted. So stop relying on distance as your strategy. Anyone can pull away. That's easy. What's hard and what truly matters is building a disciplined life that speaks for itself. Because when your actions are consistent, your mindset is strong, and your direction is clear, you don't need to create attraction. You become it. Here's the hard truth most people avoid. You're not being ignored because you went silent. You're being ignored because you're easy to replace. That's not meant to hurt you, it's meant to wake you up. Because in today's world, where everyone is accessible, always online, always available, being average doesn't stand out. If your presence doesn't add real value, your absence won't be felt. A lot of people think the goal is to make someone notice them. Wrong goal. The real goal is to become someone they can't easily replace. Because attention is cheap, but value is rare. And if you haven't built anything that separates you from the crowd, your mindset, your habits, your lifestyle, then disappearing won't create impact. It just creates space and someone else will fill it. Look at real life. In the workplace, when an average employee leaves, the company replaces them within days. There's no disruption, no real loss. But when someone highly skilled, reliable, and disciplined walks away, everything shifts. Projects slow down, results drop. People notice. Why? Because that person built value over time. They were impactful. The same rule applies to you. If your role in someone's life is easily replaceable, meaning you bring the same energy, the same mindset, the same habits as everyone else, then you can't expect your absence to hit differently. You haven't created a gap that can't be filled. Now let's flip it. Imagine someone who has standards, discipline, and direction. They don't just talk, execute. They don't just exist, they grow. Their time is structured, their energy is focused, and their presence adds something meaningful. When that person steps back, it's not just silence, it's a loss. Because they brought something unique to the table. There was a guy who used to be constantly available in his relationship, always texting first, always adjusting his schedule, always prioritizing the other person over his own growth. Over time, he became predictable and eventually overlooked. When things started falling apart, he thought going silent would fix it. It didn't. Nothing changed. That's when he realized the problem wasn't communication. It was his value. So instead of trying to be noticed, he decided to become different. He focused on his career, improved his physical health, developed skills, and most importantly, built self-respect. He stopped overgiving. He stopped trying to please. He started operating with standards. Months later, everything shifted, not because he disappeared, but because he evolved. People started treating him differently. Opportunities started opening up, and the same person who once overlooked him suddenly saw him in a new light. But here's the key. By that point, he didn't need their validation anymore. He had built his own. That's the level you need to reach. So how do you become hard to replace? It starts with identity. You need to decide who you are and what you stand for, not based on emotions, not based on other people, but based on principles. When you have standards, you stop tolerating things that lower your value. Next, you build skills that separate you. Financially, intellectually, physically, there has to be growth. You can't stay stagnant and expect different results. Learn something valuable. Improve your communication, strengthen your body, increase your earning ability. Because the more you grow, the fewer people operate at your level. Then you protect your time and energy. This is where most people fail. They give access too easily. They respond too quickly. They make themselves too available. But scarcity creates value. When your time is limited because you're focused on your goals, people naturally respect it more. Also, stop trying to be liked by everyone. That mindset makes you generic. When you stand for something, you automatically become selective. And that's what makes you stand out. Not everyone will align with you. And that's okay. You're not here to fit in. You're here to level up and finally stay consistent. Becoming hard to replace isn't a one-time effort, it's a lifestyle. It's what you do daily, repeatedly, when no one is watching. That's what builds real value over time. At the end of the day, the goal isn't to make someone miss you for a moment. The goal is to become someone whose absence creates a real gap. Someone whose presence adds something meaningful. Someone who isn't easily swapped out because what they bring is rare. So stop focusing on being noticed. Start focusing on being irreplaceable, because when you reach that level, you don't have to chase attention, validation, or approval, People feel it when you're gone.